But because the truth excludes all falsity and dissolves doubt, it now becomes readily available to dissolve those which seem to bring difficulty about the divine generation. For it is already clear from what has been said that we posit an intelligible generation in God, but not such as exists in material things, the generation of which is a kind of change opposed to corruption. It is already clear from what has been said that the generation of the Son of God is similar to this conception. In the same way, the word that is conceived in our mind does not proceed from potential to act, except in so far as our understanding proceeds from potential to act. And yet a word does not arise from our understanding except as it exists in act. But at the same time as it exists in act, the word is conceived in it. Now the divine understanding is never in power, but only in act, as was shown above. Therefore, the generation of the word itself is not according to the exit from power into act, but as act arises from act, as brightness from light, and reason understood from understanding in act. Hence it also appears that generation does not prevent the Son of God from being true God, or from being eternal. Rather, it is necessary that he himself be co-eternal with God, whose word he is, because the intellect is never actually without the word. And since the generation of the Son of God is not material but intelligible, it is now foolishly doubted whether the Father gave the whole nature or a part. For it is manifest that if God understands himself, the whole fullness of himself must be contained in the Word. And yet the substance given to the Son does not cease to be in the Father, for neither does it cease to be its own nature in the thing that is understood with us, from the fact that the word of our understanding has from the thing itself understood, so that it intelligibly contains the same nature. From the fact that the divine generation is not material, it is clear that in the Son of God there must not be one thing receiving and another nature received. For this must happen in material generations, inasmuch as the matter of the generated receives the form of the generator. But in the intelligible generation it is not so. For a word does not arise from the understanding in such a way that part of it is pre-understood as the recipient, and part of it flows from the understanding. But the word has its origin entirely from the understanding. Just as in us, one word arises entirely from others as a conclusion from principles. But when something originates entirely from another, it is not necessary to assign the recipient and the received, but the whole that originates from that from which it originates. Similarly, it is clear that the truth of divine generation is not excluded from the fact that there cannot be a distinction of several subsisting in God. For the divine essence, even if it is subsisting, cannot be separated from the relation which must be understood in God, from the fact that the Word is a concept of the divine mind by God himself who speaks. For the Word is also the divine essence, as has been shown. And God saying, from whom the Word is also the divine essence, not one and another, but the same number. But relations of this kind are not accidents in God, but subsisting things, for nothing can happen to God, as was proved above. There are therefore many subsisting things, if relations are considered, but there is one subsisting thing, if essence is considered. And for this reason we say one God, because there is one subsisting essence, and several persons, because of the distinction of subsisting relations. For the distinction of persons, even in human affairs, is not attended to according to the essence of the species, but according to those things which are adjoined to the nature of the species. Therefore, in the divine, it is not to be said that there is one person because of the unity of the subsisting essence, but many because of the relations. From this it is evident that what is, as it were, the principle of individuation, does not follow from being in another. For neither is the divine essence in another God, nor is paternity in the Son. And although the two persons, in other words, the Father and the Son, are not distinguished by essence but by relation, yet relation is nothing other than essence according to matter, since relation in God cannot be an accident. Nor will this be deemed impossible if one carefully considers what was determined in the first chapter, where it was shown that in God are the perfections of all beings, not according to some composition, but according to the unity of a simple essence. For the various perfections which a created thing obtains through many forms belong to God according to his one and simple essence. For a man lives by another form, and by another he is wise, and by another he is just. All these agree with God by his essence. Therefore, just as wisdom and justice in man are indeed accidents, but in God they are the same as the divine essence. But it is not for this reason that divine wisdom is said to be his essence, when he adds wisdom to his essence in us, as if divine wisdom were deficient from our wisdom. God has according to his essence perfectly. It is necessary, therefore, that whatever belongs to us according to its distinct essence and wisdom must at the same time be attributed to God according to its essence. And a similar principle is to be observed in others. Since therefore the divine essence is the very relation of paternity or sonship, it is necessary that whatever is proper to paternity should be appropriate to God, although paternity is the very essence. Now this is characteristic of paternity, to be distinguished from sonship. For the Father is said to the Son as to another, and this is the reason of the Father being the Father of the Son. From this also it is clear that the relationship in the divine is not without the absolute. It is, however, differently compared to the absolute in God than in created things. For in created things the relation to the absolute is compared as an accident to the subject, but not in God, but by way of identity, as is also the case with other things which are said of God. But the same subject cannot have opposite relations in itself, so that the same person is the Father and the Son. But the divine essence, because of its every kind of perfection, is the same as wisdom and justice and the like, which with us are contained in different kinds. And similarly, nothing prevents one essence from being the same for both paternity and sonship, and the Father and the Son being one God, although the Father is not the Son. For the same essence is that which is the thing having natural existence, and the intelligible word of itself. From what has been said, it can be evident that relations in God are based on reality, and not on understanding alone. For every relation which results from the proper operation of a thing or power or quantity or something of the sort really exists in it. For it would be otherwise in the understanding alone, as is evident from knowledge and the knowable. For the relation of knowledge to the knowable results from the action of the knower, but not from the action of the knowable. For the knowable exists in the same way as it is in itself, and when it is understood, and when it is not understood. For it is said that what is understood to be knowable is relative to knowledge from the fact that knowledge is related to it. It also appears the same on the right and on the left. For in animals there are distinct virtues from which the relation of right and left arises, for which reason such a relation truly and really exists in an animal. Hence, no matter which way the animal is turned, the relationship always remains the same, for the part is never said to be right or left. But inanimate things, which lack the aforesaid virtues, do not have this kind of relation really existing in themselves, but are named according to the relation of right or left, from the fact that animals are in some way related to it, compared to his situation. Now the relation of the Word to the speaking God, whose word it is placed in God, from the fact that God understands himself, which indeed is an operation in God, or rather is God himself, as was shown above. It is therefore left that the aforesaid relations are truly and really in God. But although the relation is supposed to be in God, it does not follow that there is something in God having a dependent existence. For in us, relations have a dependent being, because their being is different from the being of substance, whence they have their own mode of being according to their own reason, as also happens in other accidents. For all accidents are forms of some substance superimposed and caused by the principles of substance. It is necessary that their being is superadded to the being of substance and dependent on it, and the existence of each one of them is as much earlier or later as the accidental form, according to its own reason, was closer to the substance or more perfect. Because of this, the relation that really comes to substance has both the ultimate and the most imperfect being. The ultimate, indeed, because it not only presupposes the existence of substance, but also that there are other accidents from which the relation is caused, as one causes equality in quantity, and one causes similarity in quality. And the most imperfect, because the proper mode of relation consists in that which is to the other, whence its own being, which is superimposed on the substance, depends not only on the being of the substance, but also on the being of something external. But these things have no place in the divine, because there is no existence in God other than substance, for whatever is in God is substance. Therefore, just as the existence of wisdom in God is not an existence dependent on substance, because the existence of wisdom is the existence of substance, so neither is the being of a relation a being dependent on substance, nor on another external thing, because the being of a relation is also the being of a substance. It is not, therefore, that the relation is placed in God. It follows that there is some dependent being in it, but only that there is some respect in God in which the reason of relation consists, just as from the fact that wisdom is placed in God, it does not follow that there is anything accidental in him, but only a kind of perfection in which the reason for wisdom consists. From which it is also clear that from the imperfection which appears to be created in the relations, it does not follow that the divine persons are imperfect, which are distinguished by relations, but it follows that the divine persons are the least distinct. It is also clear from what has been said that although God is substantially predicated of the Father and the Son, it does not follow that if the Father and the Son are several, that there are several gods. For there are many because of the distinction of subsisting relations, yet they are one God because of the unity of the subsisting essence. But this does not happen in men, so that there are many people who are one man, because the essence of humanity is not one in number in both, nor is the essence of humanity subsisting, so that humanity is man. Now, from the fact that in God there is a unity of essence and a distinction of relations, it becomes evident that nothing prevents certain opposites from being found in one God. Those opposites which achieve a distinction in relation, such as begetting and begotten, which are opposed relatively, and begotten which are opposed as affirmation and denial. For wherever there is any distinction, the opposition of negation and affirmation must be found. For those things which differ according to no affirmation and negation are completely indistinct. For it must be that as far as everything is concerned, the one and the other were one, and thus they were completely the same, and in no way distinct. These things then, about the divine generation, are sufficient.